France has been burning for 5 days. Intense violence gripped most of the French cities. The government's repeated calls for peace did not yield results. Hundreds of protesters have been arrested in a crackdown. Let's understand what led to this unrest. What triggered the protests? On June 26th, a police officer shot 17-year-old NAHEL M. The authorities claimed that the teenager was driving in the bus lane. He did not stop when the police tried stopping him. He drove through a red light and got stuck in a jam. He was then shot by a police officer. A single shot went through his left arm and chest. Protests broke out in several French cities after the teenager's death. After Nahel's death, reports suggested that he was shot for driving into 2 police officers at the scene. A video of the incident that came out later did not match the reported version. Instead, the video showed Nahel's car going away from the cops. The diverging accounts fueled the public anger, leading to widespread violent protests. Now the question arises, has the French government taken any action? The authorities have launched a formal investigation into the matter. The accused police officer has been charged with voluntary homicide and has been detained. Despite the government's action, people are angry. The French police has been accused of racist brutality. Nahel was of Algerian descent. Protesters believe that Nahel's Algerian identity is the reason for why he was shot. According to a 2017 study by an independent human rights group, youngsters perceived as black and Arab are 20 times more likely to be stopped by the police than their white peers. And this is not the only case. French police have been accused of racism and brutality in the past as well. In 2016, Adama Traore, a black man, died of asphyxiation while handcuffed. The violence also revives memories of 2005. The death of 2 teenagers running from the police had set off weeks of violent protests back then as well. In 2005, 3 teenagers aged between 15 and 17 were heading home. They were suddenly pursued by the police. The terrified youngsters hid from the police in an electricity substation. 2 of them, Zayed Benna and Bouno Traore, were electrocuted, while the third, Muhiddin Aldun, suffered appalling burns and life-changing injuries. France has a long history of colonial racism and violence against people racialized as non-white. However, the French government has denied all such allegations.
We're in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America, where Prime Minister Modi will arrive for his first state visit. And we're seeing the preparations, we're seeing the buzz around us, and with me are 2 women who've tracked the India-US relationship as it has evolved over the years. This is Washington's Chinatown. A massive friendship arch draws you in. The White House isn't the only landmark built by slaves. Nearby is the Washington Monument. It's a hallmark of DC's skyline. It's an imposing presence. It's supposed to showcase strength. It was built to honor America's first president, George Washington. This monument too was built by slaves. We're at the Washington Memorial, where the Indian-American community has gathered to conduct a unity march to welcome Prime Minister Modi. Such marches are being held in at least 20 cities across the United States.
भारत माता की जय। मोदी है तो मोदी है तो
Behind me is the US Capitol building. It is part of what is called the front yard of America, the National Mall, home to the most iconic buildings in the country, also the seat of the US Congress. The US Revolution had just ended, and the Americans wanted to create a new identity for themselves, something that breaks away from their past of the British colonial rule. George Washington was the president, and he had a plan. He picked the land himself. He passed something called the Resident Act that helped create the US Capitol and the President's House, which is the seat of the US government. Are you selling drones to India? Which ones and how many?
Latest platform is the MQ-9B, the most versatile, high altitude, long endurance unmanned aircraft in the world.
Okay.
Look at this. This is an ad for a gun, Glock firearms, and nowhere else have I seen something like this. Ads for firearms and weapons so openly and frequently displayed in civilian spaces. This is America for you. It's a country which has more guns than people.